Welcome everybody to Decentralized News. Today we are going to be talking about all of the latest news in crypto, whether it's ETFs, airdrops, macro, and everything in between. I'm here with my amazing co-host Piter, and we're going to bring you the absolute latest news, just like we've been doing for over a year. Now, Piter, what's the scoop tonight?
Oh, like you don't know. It is nothing but ETF narrative right now, to the point where come on, let's move on from this. I'm sure we all feel that a little bit, but it's Monday, January 8th. There's been a lot of hype around between the 8th and the 10th. This was going to happen. There is a recent report that it's going to happen on the 10th. We'll see how that goes. But there is a lot of excitement and anticipation about this ETF, and for good reason. This would be a major step forward in adoption and give BTC huge momentum and tailwinds going into the halving year on this next bull cycle, which are these 4-year cycles. This chart with the gold ETF speaks to the potential as it shows what happened to gold once what is a fairly new security, ETFs, was introduced to gold in 2003. Gold was flat for years and years. And if you go out from this chart, it is flat for 100 years before that. Now, ETFs were introduced in the 1990s. So they have become one of the most popular investment vehicles for both institutional and individual investors, often promoted as cheaper and better than mutual funds. And they're highly regulated. These companies will have to buy Bitcoin. As you saw in the meme, even though in the long run, this Bitcoin is not self-custodied, you won't have custody of the Bitcoin, they will have to buy Bitcoin. So it will affect the price of Bitcoin. There's no doubt about that. Now, I bring up this ETF being invented in the 1990s. Larry Fink was in an interview recently and stated that the tokenization of assets was the next big revolution coming to finance since the ETF. So I thought it just all brought it all together, why this is so exciting. And then just to build on that, we have CNBC reporting today that the ETF will likely be approved on Wednesday. So we're recording on Monday. This will post tomorrow. But what was interesting about their report is they think trading will start Thursday or Friday. That seems a little quick to me.
Yeah, that seems really fast to me. I feel like you've got to give it at least a week, but maybe it does start as soon as Thursday. That being said, I think when we look at that gold chart, there's something you gotta take in consideration. There is a little bit of a flat period. Like there's still an increase, but there's not as dramatic an increase on gold as the ETF is approved. It starts moving drastically about 3 to 5 years afterwards. And I think that is something that everyone's got to be watching for with these Bitcoin ETFs. Everyone in the crypto market and everything is super hyped about it. But
we've been hyped about it for a while, so it's not like new money necessarily.
Exactly. You might have some high rollers who can't move all of their money onto Coinbase or something, bring it in through their Roth IRA or their 401k. But otherwise, yeah, there might be some new money, but BlackRock, I know, has been talked about. They're saying they've got $2 billion lined up, or $2 or $6 billion lined up. When you look at the market cap of Bitcoin, that's nothing. We're talking $1 trillion market cap. 2 to 6 billion barely moves the needle in terms of pumping up the price. So,
and it's like, how quickly will that money come in? Even if it is expected to come in, most likely not overnight.
Yeah.
Say that.
I think any of the price increase after this approval is fully going to be driven by retail hype, everyone's excitement, and I think that'll come with the correction. I think we're going to have a wave. We're going to have a wave, and then we're going to go and pull back. I don't think that's unreasonable because I don't think it's a sell the news event, but it'll be sell the hype event. Maybe I think we could easily push up to 65K, and then everyone's, oh my God, we're almost at a new all-time high, and then cash out and then go back before the halving and hit with a really strong reset to the bull market.
Yeah, strong, more long-term move up. There is some news about why there's a lot of smoke around this. So the SEC has not approved anything. There is still even the slightest chance that this is not approved this week. The expectations are very high, but there is the ever so slight chance that it doesn't. But the reason there is a lot of excitement around, or a lot of smoke, is like today we had BlackRock files registration of securities for spot ETF with a Form 8A. We had Cointelegraph reporting, I guess this was from the Fox business, about 10 potential issuers. They filed their updated S1. So there's a lot of forms being filed. So a lot of information, a lot of excitement that, oh, this means this is going to happen. But it still technically has not been approved. Now, part of these forms also came out about the fees and about seed funding. So there seems to be a rush to the bottom with the fees. They're trending down as opposed to going up. Grayscale was doing 2% fees with theirs. They're going to go down to 1.5. BlackRock having some introductory fees, things like that. So the fees tend to be trending down. And then the other thing that came out in these S1 filings, was that the seed funds have been purchased. BlackRock purchased 227 BTC, and ARK Share 21 said they plan to purchase around January 8th, around $437,000 worth. So a lot of smoke. And BlackRock also came out and said that they expect the approval on Wednesday. And even the SEC came out with some tweets about don't FOMO into digital markets. So there's just a lot of speculation that this all means it's going to be approved.
Yeah, and on top of that, there's a huge meeting at the SEC, or secret meeting. Everyone keeps calling it a secret meeting, but there's a closed door meeting of the SEC that's supposed to happen on the 13th. What that all means, it's the 13th, or there's a meeting on the 13th and there's a meeting on the 11th. And
Of this month?
yeah,
Oh.
closed door SEC meetings on the 11th and the 13th. And everyone's, what does this mean? And I think those meetings are all about rollout. I think that's just kind of the make sense. Everyone's saying, oh, it'll start trading the next day. I think realistically, I don't think the SEC will be 100% ready for it to roll out the next day. That's why they're probably having these closed door meetings and probably start trading a week after.
Last month what I was hearing was 2 weeks or even months. Take weeks or months to roll it out.
Yeah, I think it probably doesn't take weeks or months. It probably is maybe a week tops. I think there's just too much excitement from the issuers, like the potential issuers, that they're not going to want to wait. And so I think that's probably likely. But I also think that when we think about when new money comes into ETFs, it's usually around tax season. If you're in the US or Canada, March is tax season, where everyone's either putting extra money into their tax advantaged accounts to reduce their tax burden, or they're pre-funding next year's tax advantaged accounts to use their refunds and save some extra money on taxes next year. And to me, that's where I think it's most likely that we might start seeing that influx lining up basically with the halving, with everybody getting either their tax refunds or preparing to try and reduce their tax bills.
All right, let's talk about the flip side a little bit. Like we've mentioned, there's a lot of excitement. Even Bitcoin, the markets tend to agree with this excitement. We're up 6% today. We're flirting with 47,000 right now. But on January 3rd, the Bitcoin price dumped 9% in an hour based on a Matrix Port article predicting an SEC rejection. So a lot of the volatility with Bitcoin has to do around this SEC. Everyone's watching the SEC. Like I said, it's getting a little old. But their justification was the politics of it. That 3 out of the 5 voting commissioners are Democrats. Democrats don't like crypto. That's the general, consensus. And the applicants haven't satisfied the SEC's requirement, and there's no political justification to approve a Bitcoin ETF. On the flip side, they're saying no, the grayscale decision would just throw them back in court, and there's no way they can keep doing this. But they could possibly, another argument against that it not happening right now, like this week, that it will happen in the future, is that they could delay this further. And we've brought this up before, but there is a deadline for the 10th for the ARC 21. Now, all they have to do is get them to resubmit, and then the next final deadline for the there's
Basically
10,
all of the other
14.
ones.
Yeah, everything is not until March 15th. So by getting one, by taking the heat about grayscale and that they can't do this, and taking the heat for one application, they can push this back till March. So it's not outside the realm of possibility that happens.
It's and
This may look foolish by tomorrow. It could be approved. I may look like an idiot, but at the same time, as of right now, it's one application. They got to get resubmitted, and boom, we're pushed back till March, and we're staring at Gary Gensler waiting for him to make a move for the next 3 months.
I agree with you, and I think it's good that we have this negative conversation, the flip side conversation, just because all of this that's going on is driven by hype. There's no real fresh money entering this market. We're not having billions and trillions of dollars pour into this market right now. And so all of these price increases are being driven by hype. And so by talking about the flip side, we make sure that people aren't FOMOing and being strategic about their decisions. That being said, there is other news that's going on in this market right now. Do you want to get us started on what that news is?
Yeah, let's transition out of this a little bit. One, like, last kind of final note on the specific on the ETF. Van Eck, one of the applicants, has pledged 5% of their profits from the ETF to core devs in Bitcoin. So I thought that was a cool little story. But then the question becomes, okay, so what's the next narrative? So let's just assume it gets approved, or it gets approved at some point. What's the next big narrative that comes out of this? There's kind of two that come to mind for me personally. So the ETFs get approved, and I thought this was an interesting little side story that there was in Saudi Arabia, there was a cleric that said Bitcoin is approved. There was a fatwa, and Bitcoin is okay. So if you get U.S. investors starting to buy up all the Bitcoiners on exchanges, and you have oil-producing countries starting to buy up all the Bitcoin that's on exchanges, making big buys, does like nation-state mining wars become the next narrative?
Does software actually happen?
Does that kind of game theory come into play? And the other one that I wanted to mention to you was there's once Bitcoin is approved, what's the next biggest coin is ETH. So BlackRock and others, but BlackRock being the main one, and they have the great record in terms of their ETFs getting approved. Does that become the next narrative? And does ETH stop its underperformance and start to get hyped up a little bit? Like, oh, the ETH spot ETF is coming.
I think this is interesting. A lot of people say ETH's underperforming. I don't think ETH is underperforming as much as people think it is. ETH is trading close to 2,400 right now. It's, I think, 2,350, give or take a little bit at the time recording. But ETH had a bottom of 800. So Bitcoin is up just over 3x from its bottom at 47. ETH at 2,400 is just up about a 3x from its bottom. It hasn't underperformed. It just hasn't performed like other altcoins, because ETH isn't necessarily. I don't necessarily think
maybe that argument is there because Bitcoin dominance is just going up.
Yeah, I think that's maybe where the argument is. Bitcoin dominance is strong. Yeah, we've got the ETF narrative on Bitcoin.
Some other coins have pumped harder than ETH. You know?
Yeah, that's it. It's just ETH grew at a strong rate at 3x. It matched Bitcoin in terms of growth rate. It's not doing a 5 or 10x or a little bit more than that like Solana did, because it's a different market cap coin. It's going to perform at its own pace. But yeah, we've got the ETF narrative, and I think once we get Bitcoin approved, it's going to open that floodgate, and we know that BlackRock has already filed for an ETF. I know Fidelity has too. So everybody, that is just like the next frontier. I think we're going to get that hype coming, no question.
Yeah, the last thing I guess about with the ETFs is if this gets approved, what might outperform the market because of it? And there is a Bitcoin meme coin. So the ticker symbol is Bitcoin, but it's a meme coin on ETH. There's also one on Binance that's a lower market cap. But there's some speculation that one might do well. And then coins like STX and Ordi could outperform the market, which are related to Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think anything Bitcoin ecosystem, especially with this kind of statement from Van Eck that they'll be donating to core devs, I think that could drive some growth in the whole Bitcoin ecosystem as a whole. But I do think alts will continue to perform moderately well.
Just how does it make you feel when people like and subscribe to our videos?
It makes me feel really good. I've loved the outpouring of support the channel's gotten on the last two airdrop videos, and we've loved everyone who's supported us over the last year. The channel and our news stories are now over a year old. We hit that just as we went into our break for Christmas on December 21st. So thank you to everyone who's supported us over the last year. And if you're new here and haven't caught one of our news videos before, very much we appreciate the likes and subscribes, and welcome to the Decentralized News show and family. That being said, we always do a little bit of macro here. Macro used to be a big part of our show, and now it's a little bit of a smaller part because the Fed is being a smaller part of our lives over the last 6 months, I'd say.
Gary took over for Jerome Powell lately, that's for sure.
Yeah. As the ETF news became more and the interest rate hikes became less and less of a story, Gary's replaced Jerome, but Jerome still holds a special place in our hearts.
Yeah, he was pumping for a while. He was pumping those rates up fast.
Oh, yeah, he was killing us. But
yeah.
That being said, our next meeting for the Fed is in 22 days, and it's essentially a strong feeling towards no change, no interest rate cuts, but no rate hikes on January 31st.
This may be the last one with no change. Like the terminal rate's been achieved, but man, there's a little bit of hype growing around the pivot coming soon.
That's it. A lot of people are feeling that pivot, with everyone thinking March 20th becomes the official pivot date, making the having look sweeter and sweeter with every discussion that we've got and every factor that's coming together, with over 60% of forecasters predicting a pivot from the Fed on March 20th. And that grows to over 70%, actually 90% now. The figure's just updated, 90% as of May 1st. So yeah,
by May 1st, we could have one or two cuts, even if this ETF goes on, which I almost feel like I'm going to be tortured into watching the ETF narrative for three more months. And that goes on until the 15th of March. We could have a halving, an ETF, and a Fed pivot all in within 30 days of each other. That would be pretty crazy.
That would be absolutely nuts. That being said, we've got some CPI and PPI numbers this week on Thursday and Friday, which I think could be even bigger hype cycles for this week. If CPI comes down even more than the forecasted 3.8%, down from 4%, I think people could get pretty excited. PPI is expected to come down as well. Looking at last week, unemployment was a mixed bag. It's still low, and below expectations.
Just keep in mind, people are watching unemployment so closely because I don't want to say they want to see it break, but if unemployment starts to become a problem, it's just more incentive for the Fed to pivot. But anyway, go ahead with.
Yeah, that's it. It's just such a mixed bag. There's some numbers in there that people that are watching it like a hawk are seeing, oh, this could be that thing that we're looking for to start breaking, but it hasn't officially broken yet. 3.7 is still well within the Federal Reserve's allowance for unemployment. That being said, trueflation is down towards 2.2%, which is pretty interesting. Very close.
That's what I was talking about today. Just seeing inflation in the 2% numbers. Are we done?
Yeah, so pretty interesting there. And kind of one other thing that's going to help drive that Bitcoin hype cycle a little bit is Japan and their massive e-commerce giant Mercari is now allowing Bitcoin payments starting from June. We're going to be seeing a lot more use of Bitcoin as a currency, even just starting this year. So that's pretty insane.
Let me throw in this little tidbit of a fact. Japan, I'm not familiar with what Macari is, but it's Japan's largest consumer to consumer, which is peer to peer, what Bitcoin is about. E-commerce marketplace. It has 22 million monthly users, so no small potatoes there.
No, and now we're going to hop into some of the other hype cycles that are going on around the market right now. Etherscan just announced that they're acquiring Solana's blockchain explorer SolScan. This is after Sol has had an absolutely nuts rally following some airdrop season that's going on there, as well as an airdrop season that's still going on there. Solana had
Seems like a good time for Solano to sell.
SolScan.
Soul Scan to
Yeah,
sell. It pumped hard recently. They're like, all right, let's go.
SolScan is definitely getting those developers are getting up out at a high. Good, very much excitement there. That being said, too,
And
ENS
it's consolidation in the Etherscan, Soul Scan, like in that kind of market. It's interesting to see some consolidation in
they've also announced
this
Etherscan has
space.
now taken over ZK Sync as well. Their blockchain explorer that was announced a couple
Blockchain.
hours ago. Very much Etherscan is making moves to be the token scanner and blockchain explorer of the market these days, especially as ENS token has now surged 70% after Vitalik Buterin has now made it the platform as being super important to the future of ETH and the future of digital identity. If you haven't seen Vitalik's new kind of mini white paper on ETH and vision there, check it out on Twitter. It's super cool and insightful, and part of why ENS pumps so hard.
And in this tweet that pumped ENS, he also mentioned CCIP resolvers. It's a little technical for me, but that just makes me think Chainlink a little bit. Although Link wasn't specifically messaged.
Yeah, that
It
that's
didn't seem to pump Link though at all.
no, it didn't. It didn't help Link because I don't think it was named, and technically there are other CCIP resolvers and stuff like
True.
that. So there's competition, whereas ENS does not really have competition in that sphere up until now, other than on L2s. And I think most of those are managed by ENS anyways. If we look, March is again a massive time of confluence. We're looking at the Decon upgrade, which is going to bring prototank sharding to Ethereum, which is supposed to be a massive game changer for L2s, making it even lower gas fees for L2s even more and make it more attractive to use L2s overall. It's expected right now either in March or April. I've heard a lot of suggestions that it's March, but you never know. It was delayed a little bit because of issues with test nets before. Heading into a couple of other kind of hype cycle stories, where we're seeing Epic Games change their policy to allow blockchain games on its platform again.
GameFi is a narrative for sure. We'll be hearing more about. Epic is the owner of Fortnite, and let's see. Let me read a little bit into this. They're going to open its doors back up to blockchain and Web3 games, according to ESRB. Some blockchain games are receiving the adults-only rating due to the possibility of presenting the opportunity of exchanging the digital currency won from real money. The store had excluded all games rated as adult only. They had like blanket ban. However, recently announced a change, adding an exception for blockchain and non-fungible token games. So taking this taboo away from them and opening the doors back up. And that's exciting, yeah, because that will be a narrative next year for sure.
Yeah, I think it goes with the whole GTA 6 that's going to be coming out in, I don't know exactly
Oh,
when, but they're supposed to be adding blockchain to their game. And
possibly, yeah. There's some hype around that. It's not official yet, though.
yeah, it's not official, but it's that there was some things that in a lot of the recent trailers and stuff that seems to say that it is happening. And so Epic Games wants to make sure that people can buy that game on their store, and I think that's showing why they've changed their policy a little bit. A couple other small stories, but I think cool things if you're watching the space. Pancake Swap and their DAO has voted to reduce the max supply of cake by 40%. They've also kind of eliminated inflation or trying to negate inflation on cake. So cake had been very inflationary, but cake is now and Pancake Swap are now really trying to go deflationary and help boost that price and increase adoption. They're really trying to compete in that convex and everything space, like in the DEX space and a liquidity space. So that's pretty interesting. At the same time, they also burned over $29 million worth of cake this week. So we're seeing that supply come down, and we're seeing a general reduction in the max supply. I think that's
The only problem with cake is it's on the Binance chain, which is having a hard time. It seems.
yeah, but I've also seen you can access it on other chains now. I think
No, that's fair. It is a DEX that could potentially.
it's
Yeah.
on several other chains already, and
Yeah,
so
that's a good point. Yeah.
it's definitely interesting. And then I don't know if anyone on the channel's been following meme season. I know, Piter, you love meme season. You've had some fun playing around in it.
Yeah, I can't help myself a little bit. I do try to limit my exposure, and I really do think of it as like fun gambling money. Like the money I would take to the casino, like I'm totally willing to lose just to have a good time.
Yeah,
Maybe buy a couple of meme coins here and there.
that's it. None of this is financial advice, everybody. If nothing we do or say is financial advice, this is just our own opinions. We're having a good time. I'm just putting this disclaimer in here. I like to poke Piter because he does play in the meme coins, and often when he'll send me something that isn't a big story about for the show, it's often something meme coin related, and
And
he's
he
our
couldn't even repeat anyways.
yeah.
The names can be a little bit risque.
Exactly, especially this meme cycle. They've been a lot more risky than
Oh my
normal.
gosh, crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I always like poking him a little bit of fun. He's our resident meme master. The meme at the opening of the show every week.
Oh, that's true. I do like to make memes. Yeah,
Yes,
I enjoy that more than buying them because I typically don't do well. To be perfectly honest.
but memes are being adopted on Avalanche. They were a huge thing on Avalanche with one token kind of pumping all the way to $270 million market
A
cap.
rooster related coin.
Yeah. Avalanche has announced that they're planning to start buying some of the Avalanche meme coins, so potentially adopt the culture and bring that culture to Avalanche, which is super interesting as part of the fact that they're already also big in the gaming play space. Shrap, which is probably one of the biggest, most hyped games on the blockchain side, is building on Avalanche. There's lots of hype around gaming, so gaming and memes go together. Could be kind of interesting play for Avalanche. That kind of wraps up our show for this week. Any last thoughts, Piter, before I close this off?
Just we really do appreciate the likes, subscribes. I want to be very clear. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. You are not a financial advisor. We do this for entertainment and educational purposes only.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Very important. Disclaimers always in our description, and it's let's make it super clear. All of this is just information and education. You've got to make your own investing decisions. We're not financial advisors.
Don't listen to me. I buy meme coins sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is just very silly thing to do with your hard-earned money.
That being said, and you'll have seen the little bit of a change on the channel. I'm putting out a lot more airdrop content. If you've been watching X or anything in the crypto space lately, airdrops are everything. They're happening everywhere across the blockchain on multiple chains, multiple ecosystems. If you want those
This year in particular, too, could be a very big year for airdrops. It seems the last big year.
Oh, that's it. I think this year, if you want to make money, airdrops is probably one of the easiest ways that you can do it. Not trading means like Piter, not doing forex trading or futures options or anything like that. I think airdrops are the place to be. So if you want to catch those videos and subscribe on this channel, I'm going to be dropping tutorials at least twice a week and bringing you all kinds of airdrop content. We'll also be dropping this show every week as well, so you can keep up to date on what's going on in the space. So you can subscribe, share it with a friend. We really appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and we will see you guys next time on Decentralized News.